Semitic Magic, Its Origins and Development by R. Campbell Thompson. This is one long part, chapter 1. For tablets similar in shape, RM2, 263, the Bezold catalog, which has the same projection for suspension and contains an address to Ishtar. Ishtar, Great Lady, Queen of the Giga and Anunnaki, whose power the entities, her fathers, have increased, the destruction of mine enemies, the attainment of all my desires, with many gifts to Ishtar, dwelling in Arbela. My lady I present. The British Museum is a bronze plaque of a similar shape from Nimrud, with a mythological scene figured on it, and beneath this, on the reverse, an inscription dedicated to Nabu by Ashur Resua, in gratitude for the preservation of the lives of himself and other men, with a list of the offerings presented, which these beneficiaries have given to the entity. That which I evolved in my former sin is evil. In my heart I was angry, and the people I cast down. The legend of Ura, a plague spirit, contains an interesting tale. Of course, maybe it's more interesting in the original because there's probably a flow to it or something. Ura was angry and determined to ravage the whole world. But Ishum, his counselor, appeased him, that he abandoned his wrath. And thus spake the hero Ura: Whosoever shall praise this song in his shrine, may plenty abound. Whosoever may magnify my name, may he rule the four quarters of the world. Whosoever shall proclaim, let me say that line again. Whosoever shall proclaim the glory of my valor shall have none to oppose him. The singer who chants it shall not die in pestilence, but unto the king and noble his speech shall be well-pleasing. The scribe who learns it shall escape from the foe. In the shrine of the peoples, where he cries my name continually, his understanding will increase. In the house where this tablet is set, though I, Ura, be angry, or the Minnabe entities bring havoc, yet the dagger of pestilence shall not approach it. Immunity shall rest upon it. Now, to how great an extent we are to compare the rabbinic traditions of the angel of death, Semal, Satan, and many other demons of this kind. The angel of death, in an Arabic midrash, is described as a decrepit old man who, when sent to take Abraham, in the Old Testament, he is possibly to be seen in the angel of the Lord who kills 185,000 of the Assyrians. 2 Kings 19:35, or the destroyer, Exodus 12:23, and the angel in 2 Samuel 24:16. The rabbis found him in Psalm 89:48, where the Targum translates, "There is no man who lives, and, seeing the angel of death, can deliver his soul from his hand." Semal frequent occurrence in rabbinic writings, is generally supposed to be composed of some poison and all God. Our small also means left. This etymology is based on the belief that the angel of death puts an end to man's existence by the infusion of a drop of gall or wormwood. In the late Syriac tales, the angel of death is often described. In one of them, a young man shares his bread with the angel. The dialect of Satan, for which there is apparently no root in Assyrian, although in Arabic the root shaitan occurs, meaning to oppose. It is a distinct personality mentioned only 3 times in the Old Testament: Zechariah 3, Job 1, Job 2, 1 Chronicles 21:1, all of which are post-exilic, the earliest being about 1519 BCE and the last 300 BCE. In Psalm 109:6, and probably Ecclesiastes 21:27. It is a human adversary that is referred to. The Avestan shaitan means cast out of a place, and I would say that that is likely the origin of the Aramea and other language references as such. And Moloch. Moloch's like the agent, right? If Malik Towers is the agent, Gnog Manog, of Engramenu, Otterman, but that's something separate. And Zechariah is obviously, from the rebuke administered to him, in an inferior position. In Job, the subordination is still clear. In Chronicles, the independence of Satan has become as complete as it ever did. The tempter is in an advanced stage. Even in Job, far less in Zechariah, and Satan is not in any distinct manner opposed to God. This, at the earliest, he becomes in Chronicles. The curiously persistent belief in the power of the evil eye for harm was as real in Mesopotamia among the Syrians as it is among the modern Arabs. It is frequently mentioned in incantations among the possible causes which have rendered the patient sick, and it is described thus: the roving evil eye hath looked on the neighborhood and vanished afar, hath looked on the vicinity and vanished afar. It hath looked on the chamber of the land and vanished afar. It hath looked on the wanderer, and like woodcut for kindling, it hath bent his neck. And the exorcism ends: thou man, son of his entity, the eye which hath looked upon thee for harm, the eye which hath looked upon thee for evil, may Ba'u smite it with flax, may Gunura smite it with a great oar, like rain which is let fall from heaven, directed unto earth. So may King of the deep remove it from thy body. Belief in it is universal in Palestine. Seeing in Mark 7:22, lasciviousness and evil eye railing. Now, let's remember that there is the aspect of, it was called Palestine by the Romans to insult the local inhabitants, because wallowers for Satan wasn't a title that any people was historically pleased with and taking on until the Jews of the 1930s, when they started calling it that in order to put off the title to someone else. I mean, the Zionist Jews, not the devout Jews. Kind of wanted to bring things towards a real Zion, didn't they? It can throw down a house, break a plow, make persons sick, or kill them, as well as animals or plants. The simplest cure for a stroke of the evil eye is to take a bit of clothing in the person that has had the bad quality, a rag or other object, and burn it below the person struck. Another method is to place pieces of alum, salt, incense, and tamarisk. If Muslims are concerned, again, a Muslim may pray over things, but that doesn't mean that he thinks there's power, amuletic power, or charm power in certain substances. That's not. Our piece of palm from Palm Sunday for Christians, in a pan of fire, and take the child round it 7 times. As soon as something cracks in the pan, the spell is broken. Where's that part of the Bible that says don't pass your children over fire? If some European should pat the head of a child in the presence of a native nurse, the woman, on reaching home, will take the child into her room, place it on the floor, and then, collecting some dust in a shovel from each of the 4 corners, will throw it on the fire, exclaiming, "Fie on thee, evil eye." Charms in the shape of a silver eye are placed on the heads of children with sore eyes, or to prevent eye disease. This could have origin in the ancient Egyptian widget eye, that 63/64 symbol. It is rather a question, in such a case, whether this custom has not taken its origin in the idea of repelling the evil eye from the child. It is personified in the Syriac charm. The evil eye went forth from the stone of the rock, and the angel Gabriel met her. In Arabia, the possessor of this evil eye can strike down a bird with his glance. In the Semitic peninsula, a young camel is protected from it by a hollow stone hung round its neck. Among the modern Jews of New York, the antidote is to take a handful of salt and pass it round the head of the bewitched child, throwing a little in each corner and the remainder over the threshold. Another is for the mother to kiss her child 3 times, spitting after each kiss. And when I was riding from Aleppo to Deir ez-Zor in 1904, the Ambashi, sergeant of my escort, complained of an injured wrist, which he declared was probably due to a certain woman having cast an evil eye upon him while he was doing some work before he started. It is quite the usual thing in Mesopotamia to protect children from the evil eye by fastening small blue objects to their caps. Similarly, the owners of valuable mares will ward off evil by knotting small beads into the mane or tail. In the houses, they suspend small bags of leather containing charms from the ceiling for a similar purpose. In Cairo, it is a very common custom to hang an aloe plant over the door of the house, with the idea of securing good luck. The usual haunts of demons are deserts, caverns, and ruins. The Aborigines of Australia believe that every thicket, most watery places, and all rocky places abound with evil spirits. O thou evil demon, turn thee to get thee hence. O thou that dwelleth in ruins, get thee to thy ruins. Voices of the tradition of all peoples that have ever believed in ghosts. Maimonides speaks of the demons and ghouls that dwell in the wastes. The old Arab belief is that the ghosts of the dead dwell in the graveyards, ruins, and desert places, and the desert is full of spirits. The modern Egyptian believes that the jinn, the unseen beings, inhabit rivers, ruined houses, wells, baths, ovens, and even the latrine. The ghoul of the Arabs lives in the desert and appears to travelers in a friendly guise in order to make them lose their way. And let's remember, Islam does not believe in the spirit, in the ghoul. The ghoul is the spirit that physically harms. Christ goes into the wilderness and there meets the devil. Matthew 4:1. The unclean spirit of Palestine, a Palestinian tradition, passes through the waterless places. Luke 11:24. In rabbinic literature, the particular spots haunted by demons are caper bushes and spearworts, where they dwell in groups of 60, nut trees, where they form in groups of 9, shady spots on moonlit nights, especially the roofs of houses, under gutters, or near ruins, cemeteries, and privies, water, oil, and breadcrumbs cast on the ground. For the authorities, see the Jewish Encyclopedia 4:516. The Talmud tells a story that during a famine, a pious man gave a dinar to a poor man on New Year's Eve, and his wife scolded him so that he preferred to pass the night in a cemetery rather than at home. There he heard two spirits speaking to one another, and one invited the other to perambulate the world, to learn what punishment is to be inflicted upon men. The second, however, said it could not leave the cemetery because it had been buried in a bed of reeds. Baruch Talmud of Babylon 1:3. Maury quotes the rabbinic belief that demons lived in deserts or unclean places, dung heaps, cloaca, and obscure places. Francis Barrett in the Macus from 1801, page 102, explains in all seriousness that the best places for ghost raising are churchyards, or better still, where criminals have been executed, or where a great public slaughter of men has taken place, or even better than these, the place where some dead carcass that came by violent death, which is not expedited. For the expiation of those places is likewise a holy right, duly to be inhibited to the burial of the bodies, and often prohibits the soul returning to its body, and expels some afar off to the place of judgment. On graveyards is the haunts of ghosts, where the souls in the next world. See Javon's Introduction to the History of Religion, 2nd edition, from 1902. Haunted houses, page 49. Haunted houses are as common among the Arabs as with Western peoples, and anyone who has lived in the Oriental towns will recall the houses of which the rent was down to the lowest pitch through suspicion of their being haunted. While in Mosul, I was told the common tale of death by fright from imaginary ghosts, how a certain man was challenged to visit a haunted house at night, the belief being that the demon waited behind the door to spring out on any who should knock. The man set out one evening, and on his not returning, His friends went to see what had happened to him, and found him dead at the very door, with his Abba caught on a nail. The same type of story is, I believe, told in English of the man who dies from fright because his clothes have got entangled in the coffin of a dead man. The belief that specters inhabit ruins is universal in Semitic ghost stories. The Syriac legends are full of it. And one of the anecdotes in Thomas of Mark's history, the story is told that while a certain man was passing at night along the road by the side of a fire temple of the Magians, there's fire in the temple, not idols, but that doesn't mean they worship the temple. Let's not be one of those. Which had been a ruin for some time. Devils sprang out upon him in the form of black ravens, and they entered into him and convulsed him. In an Ethiopic magical prayer written for Aheta Mikael, the same belief appears, for it prescribes certain glorious names, probably to be recited at the front end of the doors, if thou wouldst enter into a house which is old or in ruins or unclean. One of the reasons given by the rabbis for not entering ruins is to avoid demons. And Revelations 18:2 says, fallen is Babylon the Great, and has become a habitation of devils, and a hold of every unclean spirit, and a hold of every unclean and hateful bird. According to Origen, demons haunt the air and cause droughts and bad seasons. The localities affected by the presence are temples and shrines where incense is burned and blood offerings made. The slaughter of victims being in itself enough to lure them to heathen temples. Temples where other than God is worshipped. Heathen, pagan, Gentile, stuff like this isn't really appropriate in distinguishing who the other religions are, right? I mean, who follows another religion. But even without this, they can be attracted to a place and laid therein by use of certain incantations. We may, therefore, briefly sum up the contents of this chapter as follows. First, the ghost or spectre of a dead man reappearing was and is as vivid in the minds of all Semites as in other peoples, and the character of such wraiths was markedly similar to the most popular superstitions of this kind. A spirit might be raised from the dead and might return of its own accord to haunt men. It had the power to inflict harm or disease on those whom it attacked in order to secure the payment of its due. And finally, the sorcerers, just like their confreres of latter periods and other climes, believed that their exorcisms could lay such perturbed spirits. Secondly, we have seen that the Semites believed in a wonderful phantasmagoria of spooks, goblins, demons, and fiends of hideous and horrid shapes, unsurpassed by the fertile imagination of the Middle Ages, which brought sickness on mankind. Thirdly, we must account as the most important class, in view of certain deductions to be made in succeeding chapters, those semi-human spirits or semi-divine beings born either of a human father or mother. This belief was universal among the Semites. That is to say, down to the present day, they have believed in a visitation from supernatural beings who could ally themselves temporarily. Why am I having trouble speaking up? With a man or woman, and have children in the former case to inhabit the ghostly, unseen world, and of the second to be born on earth Instances of such alliances of entities and men in classical mythology are so well known as to not need mention. Further, throughout the whole discussion, it has been obvious that the Semitic idea of spirits differs hardly, if at all, from the superstitions of all other peoples.